November 4th. You gotta love a Friday episode of the Plant-Based Morning Show. I sure do. I've got my Friday shirt on. I've decided this is my Friday shirt, much in the way that Tiger Woods used to wear a red shirt on Sundays. I don't know if he still does or not. Perhaps it has lost some of its potency, but I'm doing it. And we've got a surprise guest today. Actually, it's not a surprise guest. Don't anyone tune out just because we have a guest. It's Doug's new Instagram account. So I'm adding him now. There he is. It's Doug Hay.
Doug Hay.
Everyone can now go follow It's Doug Hay because the actual Doug Hay name is being squatted on.
It's being squatted just a couple weeks ago. We have to assume that it has to do with the newfound fame from the morning show.
I mean, if it was just 3 weeks ago, yeah, someone opportunistically saw that this morning show is a rocket ship and decided they better get the Doug Hay thing before it becomes valuable, and then you're going to pay a pretty penny to get it back one day.
That's right. No. Matt,
I love the shirt. Thank you.
It's a good party shirt. I'm digging it.
It's a Friday shirt. It's my Tiger Woods like shirt. You may not have heard me in the intro, but it's what I'm going to do for Fridays so that I'm like dialed in. This is how I close. I put this on and then I just go in and stone cold just do the show.
I like it. So as you alluded to, I did officially change my Instagram handle yesterday, in part for the show, because we're going to begin using some of our personal accounts a bit more. So follow you, Real Matt Frazier, or myself, but also, of course, No Meat Athlete.
Yeah, and I've been thinking I haven't actually done any new Instagram content. I'm still just trying to get rid of the foster puppies. That is the only goal right now on my Instagram. But I was thinking like it'd be cool to start making content on there that was a kind of companion to the show, because I never know what to put on there. I don't know if people care about my food pictures. I don't really just want to put like random family photos up. So it has no real identity, my Instagram account right now. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking that this show may just give it what it needs. So I'm going to try to keep that in mind as I do things.
I did put a food picture up. Probably my first food picture in a really long time, since like the early days of Doug Hay on Instagram. And that was last night because I was at my favorite restaurant, Thursday night tradition, of course.
This is the one, the Black Mountain one that has the new vegan menu.
They have a very strong vegan menu. Pretty much everything can be vegan. But they had a new cheese plate yesterday when I thought of you, because I know you've kind of sworn off all vegan cheeses.
I have banned from my household. not all, but just the ones that are made out of tapioca starch and coconut oil, which is most of them.
Yeah, but so this is a company out of Asheville called Dare Cheeses, DARE, or Dairy, DARE cheeses.
Dairy, okay.
And the E has little dots over top of it and all that stuff. Okay. But it was actually really good. It was like a cashew-based cheddar cheese that that was part of this plate. It was delicious.
And it was a whole board of different ones, or just one cheese?
No, this was just one. They were testing it out. It was not actually on the menu yet. So
okay,
we were.
Well, cashew cheese, I'm good with. Jeffrey Hudball says Dare cheese is fantastic. Yeah, anything, if it's artisan style, if it's made from real ingredients, I'm good with it. If it is just the starch and oil, I don't know. First of all, it doesn't even taste good. It's not a health thing.
Yeah,
it just doesn't taste good. I'm thinking of Daya and things like that, which used to be acceptable when that was the only option. But now it's not. Oh, Aaron's telling me we had dairy cheese at the brewery in Charlotte. I don't know if it's really pronounced dairy. Okay, I remember doing that, and it was pretty good. That is correct.
So the name, I appreciate the name. It got a little confusing. The person brought it out to us and was like, "Hey, we're trying out this new dairy cheese plate. Do you want to try it, or I'd like for you to try it or something like that?" And I was like, "Oh, like a dairy plate? Yeah, no, I'm good, thanks." And she's like, "No, it's dairy." And I was like, "What?" It was really confusing, but but we're good. We got it all figured out. So I do kind of appreciate the name, and I also kind of don't.
Yeah, it's a little confusing.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll be dealing with a lot of confusion as these foods get closer to the real thing. So maybe embrace it.
No.
Justin David Carl wants to know if we've tried Sri Moo, which is Rich Roll's. I don't know if that's how I'm saying. I'm probably saying it wrong. Rich Roll's wife's company. And no, I don't think so. I have made cheese from her before. In fact, I had her on the No Meat Athlete Radio. I interviewed her for her book. I think it was called This Cheese is Nuts. So I've made some of her cheeses from there. So indirectly, I've had her cheese, but not actually had that one. But I will look for that, because I do believe that she would do a good job. with a cheese that is sold in grocery stores and all that. Just like Miyoko has done a good job of scaling hers, but maintaining the artisan factor. Artisan important. All right, so let's see. We've got a couple things. First of all, we did in fact hit 1,000 downloads yesterday, Doug. That was a milestone for this podcast because you see 25 or actually close to 30 today in here. But I always like to remind people that there are many, many more that listen, and remind myself that there are many more who listen on the podcast. So thank you, podcast listeners. I realize though, I don't think I've ever heard of from a person who listens to the podcast but doesn't show up to the live. I know a bunch of people on Instagram who come to these lives and they, then they talk to me later or they DM me or whatever. So I know people like that. I don't know of anyone who said I listened to the podcast, but I don't. So I don't know. We've gotten some emails from people who say I'm a No Meat Athlete Radio listener and Plant-Based Morning Show listener, and I haven't, don't know who their name is or what. So maybe that's an example of someone. But I don't know. It's funny that there are so many, but maybe they're all bots.
They could be. Yeah, so I guess if you do listen to the podcast and don't join live, at least let us know that you're real. That'd be good.
Yeah, follow those Instagram accounts and DM us. Tell us that you're real. Ask questions. We're trying to ask questions, answer questions on the show. Do that. All right, quick few more things here from the audience. Bianca says Julie Pyatt is opening, that's Rich Roll's wife, is opening a Srimu operation in Memphis soon in a building down the street from my house. It's supposed to have a cheese shop inside, and I can't wait. Wow, very cool.
In Memphis. I wonder what that connection is there. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Memphis seems like a hipster kind of city to me, based on the just things coming out of it. Justin David Carl says that cheese is excellent. He had it at his vegan wedding. Very cool. And the whole health experience, when I worked in an office, I started out listening to No Meat Athlete Radio. Yeah, which makes sense. I think certainly a lot of people came to this show from that, but I want to know that the podcast is not all bots, that people found it, listen to it that way. Okay, so let's see, Doug. Before we get, this is kind of beginning to get into the show's content. I have an Aldi update, an important one. This is controversial. So my mom listens to the show and she contributes a bunch of articles. And I usually try to credit her when she sends me something and we mention it.
Did I piss off your mom?
Well, yeah. So yesterday I was at Total Wine. I was grabbing some more non-alcoholic beers. I texted her to ask her if she had gotten the non-alcoholic Guinness yet because she had expressed interest, and she responded and said that she loves going to Aldi. She was thinking she used to not like it. She thought it was not a good store, but then she went and she couldn't believe how cheap everything was. She got all this produce, all these items, and she said it came to $21 for all these good things. And then she sent me no less than 13 pictures by text message with like circled red circles on them. She circled prices. It was like that Rouse tomato sauce, a broccoli, a bunch of greens, black bean cans, just all kinds of plant-based whole foods that extremely good prices. And so she's kind of calling into question everything that you, or I think it was Katie who actually went there and tried to get the stuff.
Yep.
Oh, and she says she's here too.
And she organic. Says organic. Yeah, okay.
Right.
All right.
So yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a challenge that's been issued. I don't know if she's maybe sort of implying that your family only eats Mexican food and plant meats and otherwise you're not interested in the actual like normal ingredients. But I don't know. I wanted to see if you had any kind of response, and now might be the time to give it if you do.
I don't because I wasn't there, so I'm gonna throw my wife under the bus here. No, I know. All right, Vicky, challenge accepted. I'm gonna go back and we're gonna sort this out once and for all. I appreciate getting called out like that. That's good.
I mean, the photos were the next level with the red circles, and there were 13 of them, and they all came at once. So I'll have to pass them along to you.
So Plant-Based Lucy asked, does Aldi have any organics? And so that was actually, and so your mom is saying that they do. But that was actually one of the complaints that Katie had, was that, a lot of the organic items that we would have purchased, like fruit and things like that, they didn't have, at least at that time, in the store in Asheville. Who knows how it normally is.
I've also heard that those discounts kind of change, and this probably goes for all mainstream grocery stores, that when they call something organic, like, yes, they are within the boundaries of the rules to call it organic, but a lot of times, like, they're using so much organic pesticide that like it may be just as bad as the as the conventional grocery food. So who knows? A place like Aldi, I would be extra suspicious of that because of the low price positioning. but who knows? It's, not to say someone shouldn't buy organic, just pointing it out that when we're talking about discount stores, we got to keep that in mind.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going back. We're gonna go back. I'm gonna give this another try. We seem to have a lot of Aldi fans here that are watching because
so mostly you're saying Katie's the problem, that you weren't there. And
yeah. No. Okay. This is actually a funny story. I had a dream last night that Katie was upset with me because I talked about her too much. And I woke up and I couldn't remember whether it was a dream or not, and I had to like ask her if they. I was like, "All right, we're going to the show today. Like, should I not talk about you?" She's like, "What are you talking about?" So
that is a delicate balance. Because it's really entertaining to hear someone, you get a little glimpse into a personal life, and it's good and it's funny. I think they just need to understand this is part of our job. It's maybe some of it's made up, exaggerated, but you just gotta be okay with it.
That's funny. All right. Well, Matt's mom, I appreciate you. I appreciate your contribution to the show today.
So that Aldi thing yesterday was one of a downward facing Doug feature, which is something we used to do on No Meat Athlete Radio. And I think you told me that you have another one today. I don't know what it is.
I do have another downward facing Doug today.
Go for it.
Yeah. All right. So GPS watches. That's my downward facing Doug. that was good timing. I'm running with a group of guys. I'm trying to refocus on my fitness and my times and all this stuff. And all of our watches are completely different, like significantly, 1/4 of a mile, 3/10 of a mile on a 5-mile run. And so how do you know if you're actually improving when everybody is just completely different and our paces are all very different because the distances all come. And, it's just kind of like you got one job, do that job well. It doesn't make any sense why why it's a problem. That's my downward facing Doug. And it kind of goes back to really the bigger downward facing Doug that we've talked at length about on No Meat Athlete Radio, which is any of this data actually helpful and useful, especially when it can be quite misleading. So that's what I'm thinking about today.
Well, good. I appreciate that. My response would be that maybe run to run, any one GPS is going to be okay, and it'll just like a scale can be off, but as long as you're using the same scale and every time, then it's fine because you get to know your progress. I'm not sure if that's the case here. It could be that run. I'd like to see that. Does your GPS always give you the same response for the given route, or will it vary? There's going to be some variation anyway, obviously, because you move a little bit side to side and such. But yeah, good point. But I the bigger picture, totally agree with you. I hate that stuff. I like that stuff now and then. It can totally be a reason to get inspired again and get excited, and you want to track everything. But yeah, that could ruin well, at first I thought you were saying that it was ruining the group activity because everybody was just paying attention to their watch.
Oh,
and
no,
that certainly would. But yeah, I'm with you. I think it's nice when you don't have technology for a while.
Yeah, and what's funny is like Strava hasn't figured this out yet either, because it can say that we ran it pairs you up like you ran the group to get the run together,
okay. Right?
And it's the same route. It's like the maps look exactly the same, but one watch will say 5 miles and one will say 5.5 miles, and I don't know.
That's pretty different. It's off by that much, like a half a mile.
Mine was like 4/10 of a mile yesterday on a little over 5-mile run. Yeah,
that is quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the whole health experience says it messes with your head. Mr. Jeffrey says that when he and his wife run together, hers is always a little farther than mine. Yeah, I can see that being a little bit of a distraction or something that would hurt. That would hurt, like you said, if you're trying to progress and you're trying to check, and you want to know that you're doing better. It makes you question it if somebody else's watch says that you didn't go as much that day or something. All right. So we got
scandals.
There is a cheating scandal. There have been a lot of cheating scandals recently. There's been we didn't talk about it. There was the big fishing scandal. Did you hear about that?
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, where the guys were stuffing weights into their fish to increase the weight, which is awful. And then the video was like there was a bunch of cursing and yelling, and it got heated.
Yeah.
The chess scandal, of course, that I see the updates. I don't know that much what's going on with it. So there was that one with the anal beads were that accusation was thrown about. The poker cheating happened recently.
I missed that.
Yeah, some just similar scandal like these, and now cornhole of all things is subject to another one. This one has to do with the weight of the bags. I guess they have to be a certain weight, maybe 16 ounces if I recall correctly. And there were allegations made, and they checked the people who were accused, and it turned out that the bags they were using came in underweight, which apparently can give you a competitive advantage. But then they also measured the accusers' bags, and they were also underweight.
Yeah, in a massive twist, plot twist. Everyone was cheating.
Right, it's like baseball in the '90s. Everybody's roided up.
This article. So the article is from Fox News and Fox Sports. The headline is "Baggate Cheating Scandal Rocks Professional Cornhole World." The subhead is "The Baggate Cheating Scandal is being touted as one of the greatest controversies in the history of the sport of cornhole."
I mean, what are they doing? Is that a real thing, or are they just joking?
I think they have to be leaning into the joke, right? But then the whole article is like really like, hyping up this scandal, and then the conclusion of the scandal is that the people who ran the tournament were like, we think it was just no one was doing any funny business. It was just the bags must have lost some weight or whatever.
Right, I saw that. Like, and the news is all over. Like, if you just Google cornhole scandal or cornhole cheating, it's everywhere. Everyone has a story, and there's no punchline. It's just
no one got suspended or I don't know. That's so funny.
But it makes you wonder what's next. And I thought there's pickleball, which we've talked about a little bit, and then there's your beloved disc golf. I wonder if even that is not above the cheating.
Well, there have been some scandals in the disc golf world, mostly around taking too long, because there's a time limit of how long you have to throw and putt, especially, and people taking too long or the planting their foot too far away from where they where you're supposed to, and that kind of thing. So,
wow. But okay, so that is cheating. You've never cheated. Right. You don't cheat at disc golf, I hope, right?
Oh no, of course not. No, I'm too good to cheat. To need to cheat.
Right. Okay, actual vegan news. This one is related to something we just talked about. It's from Veg News. This $23 billion pizza giant just invested in vegan cheese. And the investment is from CJ Cheiljedong. It's a Korean conglomerate. They own Schwan's company, which owns Red Baron, and I think everyone knows Red Baron, the frozen pizzas.
Yep.
At least I don't know. We used to get them when I was a kid. So that's I guess the big thing they own. It seems like $23 billion could get you a lot more than Red Baron, but that's the big one.
Well, they own a quarter of the U.S. frozen pizza market.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
I think, what does Schwan? Schwan makes stuff, right? Schwan used to be those. Do you remember the trucks that used to drive around neighborhoods in the 80s, and they would have they'd be like refrigerator trucks, and they would bring food to people's houses. It was like grocery delivery.
I don't remember the 80s, so
yeah, that's right. You were a little young then. I'm pretty sure this was the 80s, maybe early 90s, but it was called Schwan's, and it was a frozen truck, or maybe it was Swans. I don't know. But they had frozen food and would bring it into people's houses, and I always wondered, thought it was the coolest thing. It was like an ice cream truck, but it was food, and it was like early grocery delivery, and then it went out. You had to subscribe to it. Dale Stevens remembers good. Some other what are we, Gen Zers? I guess I don't know. Well, you're probably our same generation, right, Doug?
I'm at the top of the.
I think we're Gen X, actually. We're Gen X.
Millennials. We might be different.
You're like the oldest millennial, youngest Gen X, I bet. Yeah, okay. I think we are different. Gen Z might be now. I don't know. Anyway, that is a big aside, big digression. Their latest investment is in New Culture, a California-based food technology company that makes dairy identical vegan cheese. I don't know how we've missed New Culture news, or maybe I've just forgotten it.
Yeah.
But dairy identical, they're using precision fermentation, which we have talked about a good bit on the show. That's the idea of genetically modifying yeast so that those yeast then produce exactly the byproduct of fermentation. I guess it's the byproduct of fermentation that you want. And they've been doing it to make this animal-free whey protein, which I have actually been trying out. And it's interesting, and it brings up a bunch of questions about, like, we always said whey was not healthy. That was like a vegan argument. It was like, who wants that anyway? Now I find myself using a little bit of it here and there, and my son. So anyway,
whey.
Nice, good, like it. I wish I had a sound at the ready for that, but I don't. Here, I got old Schwinn bell, whatever that is. So anyway, they're making this dairy identical cheese. And what they said, this is the interesting thing. aside from that, they think the cheese is going to be way better, which is great because we need that. That's a big problem. Like I said, the Daiya cheese to me is just not good enough as a substitute. I'm not going to get that on pizza and think that this is like pizza because it's just not. I don't want that big pile of stuff that I scrape off. It's just not good. But anyway, what they're saying, what the new culture person is saying, is that casein is the missing ingredient in other cheese alternatives. So whey doesn't contain casein. So this is more than just that they're making whey and then adding some things to it to make it a lot like milk or something or ice cream like it's happening. They're actually doing a different type of this precision fermentation that creates casein, and I guess they are making this even closer to the real thing. So it's going to be very much like it. Casein, though, was vilified in Forks Over Knives. That was the protein, the little amino acid that came out of Forks Over Knives as like the one that is causing all the tumors, the awful thing you do not want to touch. And it just got me thinking, like, cheese is the addictive food, right? And Plant-Based Lucy saying exactly what I was going to say next. Isn't casein like morphine? And people have said that is part of the reason cheese is so addictive. You always hear people say, I'd be vegan, but I just can't give. Yeah, it's the one food that people say they cannot give up. And I think it has to do with these casomorphines that basically are extremely addictive. Maybe not extremely, mildly addictive. And so, I mean, they're putting that back in. I'm sure they're going to get cheese that is way better than what we've had before. I still wonder about the fat because this is just talking about the protein, and the fat is a big part of cheese. And I've seen other articles talking about how we need better fats if we want to really make good plant-based dairy and even plant-based meats. You need fats that are very similar, and I would imagine that's not far off. So when they say dairy identical, I just don't know how they're solving the fat problem. I'm guessing that it is not truly identical. I bet they're making these proteins the same, and they're probably then mixing in some coconut oil or some other saturated fats. Mm-hmm. But the bigger point is we're going to have real good cheese soon, and it's going to be made without animals. Like,
how healthy it'll be, that's a different question, but it might be very tasty.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be tasty. But that's the question of the health is the huge thing for me. Like, suddenly that becomes a green light food for vegans to eat now. Like, there's nothing left that we can't include anymore, that we're just, thankfully we can't eat that because it's unhealthy, and we're free from that addiction. Right now you can get this whenever you want. I mean, like, we are just sliding back into standard American diet, I think, or we will be, as these foods become more and more available. It's going to be so easy to start incorporating them, buying a bag here and there, getting pizza on Friday night. Yeah. I don't know. And I just don't know what else. I mean, obviously you can have willpower and not do it. But it's not as simple as just saying I'm vegan anymore and you get a healthy option. It's you're going to be given this instead, and it's a good treat. But I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing. I'm starting to think we're going down a bad road.
I don't know. It's hard to argue against if they could make a plant-based cheese that people actually want to buy, that non-vegans want to buy, and everything that it would save, all the animals that it would save, and all the heartbreak it would save. I can't imagine that that's really a bad thing.
Right.
Because especially if the person who was replacing it would have gotten dairy cheese anyway, so it's like it's not necessarily less healthy than.
Yeah, well, that's a great use case, and that one, you're right. No downside to that.
And so, and this is we're not talking about a vegan company that's doing this. We're talking about someone who owns 25% of the 25% stake in the U.S. frozen pizza market. I mean, that is huge. So if they could crack into that, I don't know. I think that this is potentially really good for the environment and really good for the animals. Probably not so good for the health. But I will say this: as much as we talk about how much I love corn chips and Mexican food, my favorite food ever of all time is pizza, and it's been a constant disappointment to make otherwise or buy or taste otherwise delicious pizzas and vegan pizzas and not have they just are never as good as they used to be.
No, right. Without the cheese, it can't be.
And I think I would probably fall victim to buying a bag of this for sure after it came out.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Plant-Based Lucy says maybe just don't touch it, and that is the natural, easy response: is have the willpower to say I'm not touching this, or like you just said, maybe now and then you have it, and if you're not at risk for whatever eating issues people might have that might draw you into getting addicted to the food, then maybe that's fine. And it probably is fine. And honestly, that's likely the use that my family would have. It would make me eat more unhealthy food than we do, though, and I don't love that about it. But you kind of answered my bigger question there, Doug. I have this long running concern, which I've voiced many times, that if the plant based food becomes too unhealthy, then in the future the headlines are going to be that the plant based diet isn't actually good for us, and they're going to do lots of studies, and they're going to show that people who eat plant based diets, or the average plant based eater, which will include plenty of people who eat this stuff and the fake meats and all that. They're going to show that we're not on average any healthier, maybe even less healthy than someone who eats a whole food animal based diet. And so that seems like a problem to me. However, what you just said, maybe we don't need to convince people that vegan food is healthier, that a vegan diet is healthier, and that's why you should do it. Because if eventually we have perfect substitutes for the stuff that they are eating, the animal food, the animal products, the cheese, the meat specifically, the eggs, if we have a bunch of perfect substitutes, and I mean literally perfect substitutes because of things like this microbial fermentation where you produce exactly the same molecule, then we don't need to convince anybody that a vegan lifestyle or vegan diet, plant-based lifestyle is healthier, because they can go on eating exactly the same way they want. They don't need to switch. They just need to buy the version that is made without animals. Yeah, and if it tastes no different, then it doesn't matter. So we can still grow the movement, quote unquote. I don't know if it's the movement, but we can definitely save animals by having a lot more of this food. So that,
yeah, I mean, this is what we're going to get to, right? Is we're going to get to people who care about the environment, or maybe want a cheaper alternative. They can get the price down because they don't have to feed the cows and deal with dairy and all that stuff. We're going to have people who will choose a plant-based version, even though it's not healthy, any healthier, and then we'll have the people who want to eat a healthier diet. Just like omnivores now, you have a wide range of people who are eating a fairly healthy omnivore diet and people who are eating a junky omnivore diet. Like, we can't say that everybody who eats omnivore is eating nothing but like processed pizzas, frozen pizzas every day. So like, I think that there'll be these people who are as more and more plant-based options are available and people are eating more and more plant-based options, or vegan options, I think we'll have a range of people of going for the healthier version and the not healthy version. Whereas right now, the narrative around the vegan diet is that it's healthy and it saves the animals and it saves the environment. I think it'll splinter over time, if that makes sense.
Right. Which would be okay. That would actually not be a bad thing, because we kind of all get what we want that way. Mm-hmm. Mr. Jeffrey has raised another objection, Doug. He says not barbecue, Doug. I think when you were talking about the pizza being your favorite food of all time, he is a loyal listener of the show.
It's tough because I really like food, and it turns out I like some animal food, back in the day for sure.
It's like flip flopping.
Yeah,
what's going on here?
The thing is, I could have eaten pizza every day. I couldn't have eaten barbecue every day, but I did. I did go out with friends, and we would go hunting for barbecue in different restaurants, things like that. So, barbecue was definitely a big part of my diet back in the day, but pizza would have been a larger daily portion of my diet.
I have to tell the story. Little known trivia about me. I also used to be a barbecue fiend, and I once left from college, James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia, your hometown during the same era, Doug. Mm-hmm. At midnight or so, had been out partying with friends, and we'd been talking about this trip for a long time. And finally, my friend said, "Let's do it." So we got in the car at midnight and left, headed for Outer Banks, this place called Pigman's Barbecue, and got there the next morning. Made a bunch of wrong turns. It was a terrible, terrible trip. Got there at like 9 a.m. the next morning, which should have been a 6-hour trip, but we totally got messed up around Virginia Beach area. And got there at 9, and the place was, of course, not open for another 4 hours. So then we were just exhausted and slept in the parking lot, and it was terrible because it was so bright. And we just got sandwiches and then head back to JMU. And like half an hour into the road back, we were like, why didn't we just buy like more of them and bring more back, or like buy a bucket of it and bring that back? We just got sandwiches and left. I don't know what people will do for barbecue.
Oh, that's funny.
But those days are behind me.
After they've been drinking, that's the real.
Yes. But we were careful. We made sure that we waited long enough before we got in the car so that someone could safely drive us.
Yep.
Or that we could safely drive ourselves.
Mr. Jeffrey suggests Tex-Mex barbecue pizza, and I mean, I gotta say that sounds pretty amazing. I would not pass that up.
We made a barbecue chicken pizza the other day. Did not have any corn chips involved, but that could have been a nice little topping to crumble on there. Yeah. That's on my Instagram feed if you want to look at that one. Real Matt Frazier. Okay, two more, Doug, for the day, and then we'll wrap up this Friday show. This is from Healthline. We don't talk about Healthline very much, although on a personal basis, I tend to trust Healthline. They come up a lot in searches, and they do a good job with content. There a lot of sites look just like Healthline because they own 3 or 4 big health sites. So they all kind of look the same. They all do the same. But for some reason, I trust them. They focus on peer reviewedness or not peer, whatever, fact check, doctors reviewing, all that stuff. This one says you absorb slightly more protein from meat versus plant-based alternative. So what they did was they tested. I mean, there are a bunch of problems with this study. It's one from let's see if I can find it. American Chemical Society's Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry. So I don't know who was behind the study. I didn't look that deeply to see if it was, some sort of agenda behind it.
I have a friend who used to work at ACS, American Chemical Society. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
It's DC based.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Good. So it's a real thing, at least we know that. They tested animal protein versus plant protein. The plant protein that they tested was a mix of wheat and soy and wheat gluten, made using the extrusion process. And I guess they actually made this model meat alternative themselves. So that's one huge, limitation here, is that they just generalized that's plant protein, is that thing, that version. When we know from other stuff that the protein digestibility score of wheat gluten is very low. Like wheat gluten, seitan looks like it has a good protein number, but the digestibility of that is like 50%. So you do not absorb almost half the protein that is in seitan. I think soy is around 85%. We had a story about that a few weeks ago, where they were saying that the processing of the soy actually increased the digestibility score. So anyway, the point is, all different plant proteins have different digestibility scores. They mixed these two, one of which is bad, or at least low score, and then they compared it to animal. I don't know which animal protein they used. I think it was chicken breast.
Yep, chicken meat.
And so they found after 4 hours, 23% absorption of the animal protein. I think this is all in vitro, and 21% of the plant protein. So why don't you, Doug, raise your first issue, and then I will talk about the headline and and what I actually suspect is happening here.
So, all right, they say 2%. Oh, the headline changed, didn't it? Did it change?
I wouldn't be surprised, because that's part of my what I think is going
on. You only absorb 2%, or you absorb 2% more protein from meat than from plants. Which, if you're looking at the numbers, at 4 hours, you absorb 23% of the meat protein and 21% of the animal protein, which is in fact 2% less, right? But sort of. But see, like
2% of 100%. Yeah,
2% of 100%. Right, exactly. But I was looking at that and I was like, no, but it's not quite. That math doesn't quite work out, because it's roughly 10% less of the overall protein that's being absorbed is coming. I don't even know. You're the math guy. You're going to say this a lot better than I am. But 10% is a lot different than 2%. And if you need to eat 10% more protein to get the same level of protein absorption, then that's pretty significant.
And I think it's more accurate. I think that tends to be about what I've always cited as the number of how much more, like, you need to kind of up your protein requirement if you're plant-based by about 10%, because you don't absorb as much of it. So that's the rule of thumb that I've gone by. And to me, that's what is demonstrated here. Like you said, 23% compared to 21% is 10% more protein, right? If you imagine if it was 21 grams versus 23 grams, then you'd be digesting 10% more protein. And that's what's happening in your body. So it's 10%. Now, if you're comparing, instead of making the base of that comparison these numbers themselves, the 21, and you make the base the 100, then it's a 2% difference. Yeah. So really, and this happens a lot when you talk about comparisons of percentages, there's always this option of how do you present it. And I think what's going on here, here's what's happening. The URL of this article, as you kind of just noticed, Doug, the URL says you only absorb two more protein from animals products versus plants. I have a feeling that came from the original headline. And also the title tag, if you look at what's at the top, if you hover over the tab itself, or in Google, what shows up is you only absorb 2% more protein from animal products versus plants. The headline of the actual article, though, is you absorb slightly more protein from meat versus plant-based alternative. And, there are headlines that move down, like the second subheadline, nutrients not absorbed as well by human cells. Then later, overall, the difference was slight. So anyway, so my
and
hunch,
and the
and I don't.
okay.
Go ahead.
Well, the quote from the doctor, the researcher, is minimizes it. It's very subtle. Profile is subtle and complemented by a balance of healthy human diet. I mean, they're downplaying it,
right?
I guess, which is interesting.
So my hunch is that in its original form, this article was a pro plant-based protein article that said you only absorb 2% more. And that's why whoever wrote it at first chose to interpret the percentage thing and call that a 2% difference instead of a 10% difference, because they're trying to downplay it. And at the bottom of the article is this thing about why many plant-based protein sources available. So they acknowledge that you could choose different proteins and maybe get different numbers. And then there's even one at the bottom, plant-based eating has many benefits. That's one of the subheadlines in a little section. Mm-hmm. So I think what happened is they did that, and then somebody came along, some editor, and said, either this isn't going to work because it's not going to get enough clicks, or no, we're not going to take this pro plant-based stance. So let's change it so it's you absorb more protein from meat than you do from plants. And they never really looked deeply enough to change it and say, well, let's make it 10% instead of 2%. I don't know. That's just my hunch. I think that's what's going on here. Like I said, Healthline, big company now. I would not be surprised if that kind of stuff was happening. So anyway, it's a little bit of inside baseball for you. We've done the publishing thing in the internet world for a long time. Not at the level maybe of a Healthline, but we've done it. We've published thousands of articles, and all these things, there are options. You can, as Mr. Jeffrey said yesterday, the editor can totally change the tone of a story by changing the headline or the subheads. So I like to think of us, Doug, nowadays as the watchdog of these kind of things. I think we might be. We're like a little tiny watchdog. Like if you got a little Chihuahua kind of dog and made that your watchdog, so it doesn't actually big enough to do any harm or have an impact, but it still alerts. That's what we are. I think that's our role within this world.
I like it. We're calling people out. It's good. Right. We're not really doing any of the research to back up our call outs, but we're calling them out.
We just rely on years of industry experience and
good
vibes
and hunches, our gut.
Okay, last one for today. This one is from I think the one we used was greenmatters.com. There's also one on greenqueen.com, which I read. It's about a new documentary called I Could Never Go Vegan. I think I also saw this on Plant-Based News the other day, and I just didn't pay attention. And then today, for some reason, I did. It's a new documentary. Comes out on the birthday of yours truly, December 26th, Doug.
Ooh.
So that would be a nice little birthday present. Get a popcorn, little Miyoko's butter on it maybe, and sit down and watch this, whatever channel it is on. It's actually probably not what I'll do for my birthday, but I will at some point try to watch this. It's called I Can Never Go Vegan. It's basically, to me, when you make a sales pitch, more inside baseball for you here. When you make a sales pitch, you first make the pitch, right? You connect on emotion, then you start to connect with logic, and then eventually you need to answer the objections, because everyone has what about this? What about this? What about this? And you take each one and you spin it into a reason to buy the product. Not that we do any sort of unethical marketing, right? You just learn how to sell stuff, and that's part of it. Yeah. This is addressing all the objections, and there are a bunch of objections. I saw a few examples. I'll find them. Oh, here. People say things like cheese, right? We mentioned that one already. Bacon, canines. I think that's referring to canine teeth, that we have those, and therefore we're probably meant to eat meat. The food's terrible. It doesn't help the planet, or it doesn't actually help the planet. Humane slaughter, and the list goes on. And I saw others too. There were actually a bunch more, and I was like, wow, that is quite a lot of objections, and they're very specific to this vegan thing. That I've heard a bunch of these seemingly very specific ones. And it's like, wow, that does come up quite a bit. Oh, plants feel pain too.
I hate that one.
Let's see. We're supposed to eat meat. I taught that one. And even vegans are annoying. So
hard to address that one, I think.
But I wonder if they do, because it's listed here as if it's one of the I don't know. I think the filmmaker Thomas Pickering, co-producer, I think he's the one who listed those things. Sorry. The trailer goes through some of those excuses. So it's in the trailer. So I have a feeling it will be addressed. It's a little bit exciting to me. I don't know yet, like I said, what platforms this is going to be on. Hopefully it gets on Netflix and other big ones and not just their website, but we'll see. The picture of it, I don't know the name for the picture of the movie, like the poster, it doesn't look very welcoming. It's an earth, and there's a fire, and there's a pig with a red ear, walking across a plate of blood. It's not this is not a feel-good vegan movie.
No. I actually
And
thought it really did match what the title.
right, and that's my big concern. It's like they mentioned vegans are annoying. To me, like when I was wanting to become vegetarian in the early days, not even thinking about vegan, I truly did not know what it was. Uh, I got leaflets or pamphlets at my where I was in graduate school, and they had chicken slaughter and different stuff kind of pictured on it, and I felt like it was this sort of dark thing, even though what they were calling out was a very compassionate movement.
Yeah.
It just felt like this like weird world, and did not know that I wanted to go into that and be a part of that, and feel like then I was going to be one of these people handing these things out. Um, and somehow this just has that same tone to me. It feels like vegans must be in a different world than I'm in. Uh, and I don't know if that's the best thing, but then again, it did eventually work on me. I guess it had this sort of attraction to it, although it was
Uh-huh.
seemed dark and strange and required you to be an activist. Uh, it did eventually get me. So I don't know. I remember when I first bought a vegan cookbook. In fact, I went slowly into this, dipped my toe gradually, and I remember one day I bought 1,000 Vegan Recipes by Robin Robertson, and I just thought it just felt like this huge moment to be buying a vegan cookbook, where like I was now vegan. It was like almost embarrassing. I don't know. It was just a weird thing to like be embracing veganism when it seemed like this cult thing. So this movie has this. I don't know that anyone's going to see this poster and say I got to watch that, but I
Right.
do think if you're like I was and you have this sort of hidden curiosity about it, which I think a lot of people have that now because the messaging is all over the place. Celebrities doing it, athletes doing it. There are
Yeah.
people who have it in the back of their mind. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people who watch this secretly on their own little Netflix on their phone and almost feel like it's something wrong with it and that it will
Uh-huh.
reach them. So I'm kind of excited to see how this thing does.
Yeah. So I am too. I definitely am too. And I'm glad it exists. I think it's a really interesting approach to another vegan documentary of kind of just going right at the objections, just straight at it and focusing on those. My concern is the best vegan documentaries in the last 10 years or so for non-vegans, right? So
Right.
there's been plenty that are rile up vegans and get them motivated and keep people on board. But some of the best ones that have gone viral in their own way, be gone into the mainstream, and likely convinced a lot of people to go vegan are Forks Over Knives,
Mm-hmm.
are Cowspiracy. Forks Over Knives about health, right? Cowspiracy about the environment, and Game Changers about fitness.
Yep.
Right, those are the three big ones that I can think of. There's been plenty of other ones. Engine 2.
There was Earthlings and Food Inc. in the early days. Earthlings had an impact on me, but I think it was, and that
Mhm.
was about the animals, which is the one you
And that was
didn't
about the animals,
mention.
right?
But that was dark, right? That was hard to watch, and if you watched it, it had a big impact. But I don't think many people watched it. I mean,
Yeah.
relatively speaking, compared to these other ones.
So I think that what I bring that up because what I like about those is they will speak to different people probably and to where people are. So like Forks Over Knives, people who are dealing with health issues watch that and they're like, man, I could reverse my heart disease, or I could address some troubling issues with my health. Game Changers. I mean, I know for sure because I took a buddy to watch Game Changers, and then he went vegan. He was looking for that extra boost to his athletic performance and just feeling good as he was aging, and it
Mm-hmm.
really spoke to him in a way that I think something about a scorched earth or pig slaughtering would not have. And same for Cowspiracy, people who are just hyper focused on the environment. That will speak to them in a different way. I worry that this was too much and it'll throw all the stuff, and someone who is interested in the environment is not so much interested in humane slaughtering or there is no humane slaughtering in how animals are treated, and so
Yeah.
it'll just kind of become one of those another vegan movies. But obviously we haven't seen it, and any sort of vegan content I think is positive, and I think it's good because it will work for somebody, and I'm excited that it exists.
Yeah, I think you make an excellent point there that kind of goes with mine, which is that I don't think this is really for the, or maybe the who knows what the filmmaker, how much they think about this stuff, probably a lot, or maybe they just literally just wanted to make a movie about all these objections and did it. Uh, but I don't think this is gonna like those. I mean, somewhat Game Changers, people who want to be fit or do better in their sport. That's a massive market,
Sure.
and we can come in through that door and then say, hey, this is one way to get a nice performance boost and a lot of other good things. this one I don't think is going to appeal to people like that. Like if you don't want to be vegan, if you're not kind of curious about it, I just don't see people watching this unless you're only watching it to, to hate it. Like the way I read Morning Brew. You're not, I don't know. I don't think this is going to like pull people in and be like, wow, like I had no idea that movie would have that impact on me, because I don't think that person will watch it. The other thing is, speaking back like to the internet marketing, the sales pages thing, like when you put a bunch of FAQs, you don't expect people to read all of them. They find the one that they want and they click that little button to open that one up, and then they read that FAQ and that particular objection. So I think this would be stronger if there were some format where it was like a bunch of YouTube clips and you pick the one that actually matters to you and you watch that one. Not that I think that's going to convince anyone either, because I think certainly sitting down and watching the whole documentary, giving you that immersion,
and the whole story
powerful
behind it. I'm sure it's well created and it weaves the whole narrative.
Right. But like you say, if you truly do not care about animals, which I don't think there are a lot of people who truly don't, because a ton of people like pets and do say they love animals. But like the humanely slaughtered meat thing, or plants feel pain, like that just might be boring, and you just might stop watching then if you're in this because of the we're supposed to eat meat objection, or sorry, whatever other one you might have. So I just think that's a weird thing. Like you're going through all these different objections that one person may only have one of them, not all of them.
Yeah. But, at the same time, like, I mean, I made that argument too, obviously, but if you are on the fence, right? I mean, this could be like the thing definitely that pushes you over. And I think that that's great. So it seems to me, obviously we haven't seen it, but it seems to me like it could really fit a certain important niche in the vegan documentary world.
I think you're right about that. I don't think most of the other ones would have convinced me if they had come along when I was kind of in the phase of thinking about veganism, because it was just the ethic part of it that mentioned that. But like I was in that thing and I was thinking about it, and I had even tried it for a weekend and failed. This is when I was, still in grad school. And I don't know, like I just, if this had existed then, I would have watched it because I was curious, and I would have been looking for like reasons to do it. And this I mean, I haven't seen the movie yet, so I don't know, but I'm just guessing that this sort of film would have convinced me. So it's interesting that it's at this, I think, for this different market than these other ones are. But I think it's cool. I'm glad it's happening. And I don't know if I like the imagery. I don't know if I like the fire and the pig on the plate of blood and all that again. But again, if you're kind of enticed, it might be a little seductive. It might pull you in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's our Friday episode, Doug, for this week. And I hope everyone enjoyed it. This was our biggest week ever with the podcast. Pretty big week with the live attendance as well. So thank you everyone who is showing up live, especially with the participation. We each day now, you and I are marveling at the amount of people who are the growing group of what are we calling them? Plant-based junkies, plant housers,
PBJs, Corn Chip Nation.
Corn Chip Nation. That is yet undecided what the name is, but there were a lot of people, and I love to see all the comments from the regular people who keep showing up. Of course, happy to have new people come too, but it's really cool to see whether it's 10 or 15 people who are always here and always commenting and stuff, and it's just very cool. I love to see that. So thank you for everyone who's doing that stuff. You add a lot of life to this, and it sure is fun. I'm loving doing them. Like I said, the podcast is cranking, so check that out. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, get the Plant-Based Morning Show. And other than that, anything else, Doug? It's Doug Hay. Follow It's Doug Hay on Instagram. The new Doug Hay identity.
The new Doug Hay identity. Yep. Thanks, everybody. This is fun. It's been a really good week of the podcast, and look forward to next week. New stories.
We'll talk to you on Monday. I'm sure there'll be new stories hot off the press.
Oh, hold on. Bianca Phillips says, I bought corn chips last night because Doug had me craving them. That is a huge win. I mean, maybe not for your health, but for me personally, I think
the corn chips that I bought for the costume prop, they were gone 24 hours later. They had disappeared because we don't usually stock corn chips, but when we have them, people eat them.
Mm-hmm. And thanks, Jeffrey Hudnall, for always listening, even if you aren't able to attend live. That's great. Yeah. So now there's a podcast listener.
There's somebody who doesn't always attend live, but listens on the podcast. Right? Yeah. But see, he's coming to the live sometimes. I need someone who doesn't ever show up to the live, just listens to the podcast.
All right, everybody. Thanks.
Okay. Sounds good. Talk to you Monday.